Alright, this is a Burroughs ad listing machine. I think they count as a class 3, I think. This was left over from a yard sale. It didn't sell, so I got it for free. It's pretty gummy. It's not too... Yeah, see that? 5 doesn't pop back up. A lot of gummy grease in there. I'd say this is probably from the 40s or 50s, and that's when they started using synthetic grease and oil. And as the synthetic grease and oil ages, basically it turns into like a waxy substance, and that's where you get all the gumminess from, because basically there's just wax now in between all the components in there. So we can plug this in and see what happens. I tried to do something. Put some paper in. Paper not going in. I see something jammed down in there. Release here somewhere. Right. Well, maybe we can get paper to go in it anyway. That's the carriage release, I think. That might be the paper release. That's gotta be the paper release, yeah. What is that getting? Oh. There we go. Now we got paper in there. Just enough to see what happens if it'll put anything. Now that's jammed. Should go over it more. Whatever. Let's just see what happens if I try and do something. Nothing. This little access hole on the side here. Yeah, you can see the main shaft hardly moves. You see it right there? Watch how little it moves. So this thing is definitely jammed up, and what's wrong with the carriage too? I don't know what happened here. I'll have to take the carriage off anyway to see why it's so messed up. But I also have to take the covers off, and let's go look at what's inside. Alright, we're in here. You'd have to take the carriage off first, and after playing around for a few minutes, taking different things on and off the carriage, I found out that the whole carriage is kind of falling apart now because I took different stuff off of it, but the whole carriage actually unbolts these 4 screws from the bottom, and the whole thing lifts off. I was trying to take different things off the sides and slide it off, but that's not how it comes apart. These screws on the bottom come out first, and then the whole thing lifts off on the slider. And then there are 2 screws down here in the front, and 4 screws on the top of the case. See there? It's just sliding all over the place now, but 2 there and 2 there. And then you have to take off the plus and minus keys, and the whole thing lifts off. So now we're in here, and take a look. But actually pretty big motor in the back there. There's our motor down there, the ballast resistor. So you got a switch down there, right next to an oil soaked rag. That's nice. That might be some kind of gearbox down there. On the other side, so a bunch of different mechanism parts. So let's see what happens. Let's get off the cord here. So I'm sitting on something, sitting on a screwdriver. Let's take a look at what happens if we push the plus button. Hey, now it did something different. Still not raising any of these things. Not sure if they're stuck or what. Because these things here is what the numbers are on. You can see there all the numbers are right up and down these, and then these lift up and stamp onto the page to print the numbers. But as you can see, if I hold this down and then hit plus, none of them are rising. So something in there is jammed. I have to see how this comes apart better. My ski is jammed too. That might be the thing to move the carriage. Uh-oh. Let's get jammed over here. My plus key's not working. So what does that attach to? That attaches be careful here because I want to get my fingers caught if it goes off. Let's take a look at this here. I can figure out how this is supposed to trigger the motor. Okay, so the problem is this little thing here is not resetting like that. Once it's reset like that, and it's plugged in, when you hit the add button, it goes. See, now it won't go again until you reset this. Ooh, it's gonna fall over. And it tries to go again. So I'll have to see if that's just doesn't seem that sticky. We'll have to see what's up with that, why that's not resetting. Probably clean it up a little bit and see what that does. I'm playing around with this some more. I made a little makeshift handle I can put on here and crank it. I got it to go like that, which is what you would usually do with the handle. You'd pull the handle back and then push it forward. And how I got it to do that was, I'm not sure if you can see it, but right here, this is like a cam that grabs onto this main shaft here. And this piece, which I just took off, this piece was in here like this. And if this is up like that, see, it jams. Because this needs to pull forward in order for the cam to lift down here and for the shaft to turn. But if you pull this down, then it works. So this was all gummy, so I pulled that off. You can see the grease there is, focus, is more like wax than grease, so that'll have to be cleaned up. But that out of there, now I can pull it up like that. It still doesn't engage the, printer, but at least we're getting somewhere. And I did have to disconnect the motor to do that. Let's see, where did that piece go? I just had it here a minute ago. Well, anyway, it's here somewhere. There's a little shaft that took off of here that connects two little levers down here. The motor is like an eccentric with a pin on it, and it has a lever that goes down to another eccentric on this main shaft, so that when the motor spins, it pulls the shaft back and forth. I just set it down here somewhere. But anyway, it's here somewhere. I'll find it when I put it back together. Alright, I think I've got this figured out now. I think this was not working right because the machine wasn't turning all the way to its home position. So when you crank it all the way through and back, then it returns to its home position, and this is in the right place so you can trigger it again. I also figured out what another problem was, why it wasn't doing any actual math. These things right here were all jammed, and they were right on the shaft, and they were all seized on this shaft. And those are the, you call them like kind of like lifter elements. Basically, how this works. Not sure if I can show this. Let me flip it around. Okay, so you can see when I push a number down, the little peg pops out the bottom there. Still kind of sticky, but then there's this rod here, which has little pegs on it. And if I push, say, if I push this one down, this rod is going to rise up back until it hits this and stop. If I push number 1 down, the rod's only going to travel that far before it hits the peg and stops. If I push 9 down, there's no stop up here. I don't think there is anyway. No, there's no stop. There's a little, I don't know how to see, but you can see, so you can't see. All the way up behind there is 1. And that one just comes back and hits 8. It misses 9 because 9 has a little cutout there. It's kind of, again, it's kind of hard to see the way this is, but what happens is when you push these keys down, the rod comes up until it hits a stop and stops. If you push 9 down, it misses the last stop, so the rod goes all the way back until it hits its end place. And if you have no key pushed down, see the little thing pop up here? This thing pops up and stops the rod from moving at all. Well, those rods are attached here to these, and these levers go down to those things I was showing you before. And see if I can show it. Let me flip this around again. So I'm not sure why you can see that, but down in there is the back side of these things that were stuck. The lifters, I guess we'll call them. And they're not just a rod, they're actually kind of like a triangular plane. So imagine like a triangular plane with a circular sort of the front of the triangle, and there's teeth all the way along the front of that. And as these rods go backwards up in the top, they pull these up, and the teeth go up. And the front of it rocks up, and it rocks up proportional to the amount that the rod goes back. So like if you have a 1 entered, the rod will only go back a little bit, and the rod lifter for that column will only go up 1 little tooth. If you have a 9 pushed down, the rod will go all the way back and rock the riser all the way up so that 9 teeth will move up. Then, on the second half, because that's just the first half of the cycle, then this mechanism back here, which is the accumulator, pops in, and the machine rotates backwards, and the teeth drop all the way back down. And as they drop back down, they drive the accumulator forward the number of positions that they've rocked back. So if you have a 9 entered, when the machine actuates, the lifter will rise up 9 teeth, the accumulator will pop in, then the lifter will drop back down the 9 teeth and drive the accumulator forward 9 positions. That's how it does its math. Also, as these rise up, it drives up the stampers on the top here up to the appropriate position and then stamps them onto the page. So I'll show you that action in a little bit. But all these lifters here are supposed to rock on the shaft in here, and they're all frozen to it. So I just went over the whole thing, basically squirted WD-40 in everywhere to try to wash out all the old grease, and then I'll go back with some oil and oil everything to make sure it's nice and lubricated. The only other way to clean this that I can think of would be to disassemble it piece by piece until everything's all apart, and I really don't want to do that. So I'll work on, see if I can getting this partially or mostly back together, but first I'll show you the stamper action. Okay, so when you don't enter any numbers, and yes, I had to take some of the keys off because I was looking under here, looking under this plate here, so I had to take these keys off to get the screws out to lift this plate up. But anyway, when you don't enter any number, nothing comes up here. If I enter, say, a 9, watch this riser come all the way up. See that? So that riser comes all the way up to 9, then stamps it onto the page. If I put a 3 here, well, it comes up to 3 and then it stamps it onto the page. I think I'm basically done pretty much with this. I think subtraction is kind of iffy, that gets jammed sometimes. And also when you press total, you get your total, then when you press add, they all come up all the time, which is not supposed to happen. And I found out that it's a little rod over here that's not getting pushed back where it belongs, so I have to figure out what's supposed to push that back over. But other than that, I think this is pretty good now. So when I push that back over, now I should be able to say we'll put 4 in. I get 4. Now if I put 6 in, I should... Oops, that just jammed. I think it jams because the carriage isn't on. You just give a little tap and it frees up. So I have 4 and 6, now I should get 10 on the total, so I should get a 1 here and a 0 there. Well, that wasn't quite right. Actually, that's cleared. Push that back over. Now it seems to work. So right down there is, you can't really see this because it's underneath, that shaft that I was talking about that you have to push in over here, runs all the way across here, and the end of it's right there. And it looks like there's a hook on there. You can see there's a little hole in that piece. So I'm thinking there was originally a spring that went from there to there to hold that this way. That way. Then when it's over, if I push total, now the shaft is over that way, and all the risers come up all the time. If I just push it back over, I can do regular addition, no problem. So I'm going to see if I can find some sort of spring to put on there to hold that to this side. And if that works, I think this will be pretty much done. Maybe I'll take another look at subtraction, but I think that's a little sticky yet, but mostly works. Now I'll have to get some paper and make sure it works right. Alright, so I got a spring up here to pull that bar that runs across here back over. And I just wanted to do a little bit better job of explaining what exactly the problem was here. So, I think I mentioned before that down here, there are these little things. These little things right here that work on preventing this from sliding back if there's no key pressed in this column. So if I press a key, see how that pops down? Now this can slide back and the riser can rise up to the appropriate stop up here according to the keys. If there's no key pressed there, then this pops up so that this shouldn't slide back at all because there's no number pressed in this column. So that's the stop to make sure that the riser doesn't lift up at all and nothing is added to the accumulator. But when you press the total button, you want the accumulator value to be read out on the risers up here. You can't see them now, but the risers up here at the top of the calculator. So the accumulator has to be transferred to here. Basically how that works is it engages with that, and then the accumulator later drives to 0, and these rise up based on the value in the accumulator. So for that to happen, the columns have to be free. So when you press the total button, you want these down here to be released so that the accumulator can drive the risers up to the appropriate point. And that's where that bar comes in. When that bar is in its home position, it locks these where they are so that these can't slide back. When you press the total key, that bar slides over and unlocks these so that they go up in that case. See how they don't go up here? If I push that bar over, if I can do that here. If I push it over, now these can go up a little bit. And then they go up, and then these slide down underneath them when the bar is home, so you can't really push them up. So that's why this spring is important, because without this in here, then when you push the total key, the bar up here stays over, and these stay unlocked. So if you have no key pressed in that column, then there's no stop, and it assumes it's a 9 and adds 9 to the accumulator. So that should be fixed now. I got subtraction working. We're just jammed, had to be worked a little bit, and that seems okay now. So I think we're ready to put the cover back on and see if it actually works correctly. Oh, also I redid the cord. You can see the end of the cord was kind of beat up. The insulation was falling off, so I cut that part out and rewired it in where the insulation is good, because it's much better down here at the lower end. So I think we're ready to put the covers back on. I'll clean up the keys, I got some grease on them, and see how it works. Alright, it's all back together. The reason why we had trouble loading a full page before is because this roller here on the bottom is missing its springs. It's kind of just flopping there. So without its springs to hold it up, when you put the paper in, this roller doesn't push it up behind this metal guard, and so it gets all crunched up. The two end ones have their springs and they work fine. I'm not going to worry about that really, because you're only printing with just this right here. So as long as you can load a page here and print, that's satisfactory. If I ever find some springs and some clips I can use, because they have clips on the back that the springs connect to, both the springs and the clips are missing. But if I ever find something similar to that I think I could use, I'll put it on, but for now I'm not going to worry about it. So let's see what we get. It's probably going to need a new ink, but we'll see how it prints for now. So let's try... Oh, it printed. And the total. Hey! You see that in there? 55 plus 22 is 77. Seems to work. If I push total again, there should be nothing. Yeah, 0. So, let's see how multiplication does. Oh, it cleared right away. Because you have to hold it down. I say multiplication, but it's not really multiplication. You're just holding it down for the number of times you want to multiply it. So it's not like full function multiplication where you can like shift and multiply by, like, if you want to multiply like 100 by, or say 125 by 425, there would not be an easy task on this machine. You'd have to do like 425, enter it 5 times. Is that 5? 3, 4, 5. 5 times. Then move over. What did I say? 125, and then do it 2 times. Then move over again and do it 1 time. So not really designed for multiplication in the normal sense. I guess they just have this here, so if you want to enter, like, say you bought 5, I don't know, whatever you're buying, 5 books, you can just put in the price and then hold this down 5 times. It's not really meant for full-fledged multiplication like the other calculators are. I have no idea if that's right. But it seems to be working. Let's try subtraction. We'll do 77 minus 22 and total. Hey, works. Alright, I think that's satisfactory. Let me show you a bit of the side here. So on this side of the carriage is the paper advance mechanism. Let me see if I can probably slide this over. That's the carriage release. Slides over. And just a little bit. Well, down here, oops, not going to be able to see it. Hold on. Okay, down here on the bottom is this arm, and every cycle that the machine runs, this arm pulls back. I can't pull it back now because it's locked in, but every cycle the machine runs, this arm pulls back, which slides past the teeth. You can see them on the bottom there. There's teeth on the bottom there. This arm slides past those, pops back up, and pushes the teeth forward to turn this. No, I can only turn it backwards. Why is that? There you go. To turn this forward 1 revolution. Also, that mechanism, see, this is attached to this bar down here, and this bar runs all the way across to the other side. And see if you can see it. Right there, see the little hook right down in there? That's what pulls the bar back. And that also is attached to the ribbon drive, which drives the ribbon. So, because this is an ink ribbon, you have to keep driving it past, otherwise you'll keep stamping on the same spot and you run out of ink in that spot. So every revolution, it turns the ink wheel a little bit of a turn to pull the ribbon a little bit forward, so that you're not stamping on the same spot all the time and get fresh ink with each addition cycle. Alright, let's do one last test. Make sure this is clear. Looks like it is. Thing. Now it's stuck on something. Now it's going. There you go. 0 total. I don't know why it does that. I think it still has to loosen up. It's doing it less and less each time as I've been playing with it. So I think it just has to loosen up a little bit more. Usually if you hit it a couple times, then it frees up. Or something's still a little bit sticky in there. But since you're working otherwise, let's do one last test. We're 99 plus 1. That's not right. We got 90. So carry might be a little bit off. Try that again. Okay, keys are flying off now. Yeah, carry's still a little bit sticky. I have to play with that a little bit. Total key will stay on, that is. Let's try 9 plus 1. That got 10. Let's try 9 here. Plus 1. That got 10. Okay, let's try this again. 99. Plus 1. Still saying 90. So if I have to work with that a little bit, see if we can get the carries freed up. Alright, it seems to be working now. I've been playing with it for a while. See my sheet I printed out, like 999 plus 1 is 1000, and so on, different numbers. I'm running out of ink now. I might have to get a new ribbon. But if I put 99 plus 1, Now I get 100. Again, it's hard to see. I'll have to see if I can find a new ribbon. Yeah, it looks like the ribbon broke. See the end of it there, the other half is still here, so yeah, definitely have to find a new one of those. But I got the new ribbons on there. Unfortunately, they're too big for the covers, so I'll have to find something different eventually, but for now, it'll work. It's red. Yeah, the carriage is still sticking a little bit, but if I do 99, 999 plus 1, I get the right answer. So carriages are starting to free up. Oh, it's still a little bit sticky, I guess. No, that is right. What am I thinking? Yeah, that's right. That is 66. 34. That should be right. Oops. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, seems to be working. See if I do 100 minus 99, I get 1. Yep. So that seems to be working now. So I hope you enjoyed this little look at basically just a cleaning out. Now we had to replace one spring in the top over here of a Burroughs. I think this is a class 5. The class 1 was the big, huge one they used in the banks with the glass sides. I think they weighed like 100 or 150 pounds or something. They're big, huge things that came out in the late 1800s. I think class 3, is it class 5 or class 3? Maybe this is a class 3. I think the class 3 is a smaller one like this, the ad lister. And then the class 5, I think, is the non-printing comptometer-like one, I think. Those are the basic Burroughs calculators. And that's going to be about it for this one. So hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.